Everyone, good morning, good, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're watching the stream from. We are back again with another workshop. So today with us we have Vitor. Vitor is from Cryptum, and Vitor will be going through what Cryptum is, and we will learn how Cryptum can help the hackathon participants speed up the Web3 development process. Before we start, if you have any questions, feel free to use the live chat, which is on your right. If you're watching this through a live stream, if you're watching a recording, feel free to drop your questions in the comment section. And if you're comfortable asking questions in Discord, feel free to join the Build with Celo Hackathon Discord and ask your questions there. We will be taking the Q&A session at the end. So feel free to drop your questions and we'll be answering all of them at the end. With that, Vitor, would you like to introduce yourself and continue with the session?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me start in sharing my screen. Okay, can you see it?
Yes, we can say it.
Awesome. All right, so my name is Vitor Costa. I'm one of the developers over at Cryptom. And today I'm going to show you how you can use our product, Cryptom, to, as Harpaldesh said, speed up your Web3 development. And I'm going to tell you how you can use it, what it does, what it doesn't. And I'm pretty sure it's going to be a helpful tool to help you in this project. So I'd like to start by going through how the Web3 development workflow looks like at the moment. At first, you got to choose your network, so and your protocol, for example, Celo, Ethereum, etc. Then you also have to choose the network that you're going to work with, either testnet or maybe if you want to develop something locally, you have to spin up your own blockchain at your computer. After that, you have to create a node to communicate with the blockchain. So that's another thing that you should do. Either create your own node, maybe use a public node for testnet. And then for production, you might have to rent a node or something like that. After that, you also have to create your smart contracts. So that's a development and then also compile and deploy it into your desired chains. It also has to do with different languages. So for Celo, you would be working with Solidity. After that, you develop your Web2 application, just a regular front end and back end and all that stuff. After that, you connect these applications. So how your smart contract is going to interact with your application and back and forth. Finally, you have to launch. So you repeat all the configuration steps, but on the production environment, right? So that's another network, another node. You have to redeploy your smart contracts and etc. And Cryptum comes as a way to speed up this process. And myself, as a developer, I noticed these 6 pain points that people usually run through. The first one is that it requires a lot of specialized knowledge. I think that the public here are all developers or maybe looking into developing something on the blockchain. So you know that there's a lot of specific knowledge that you need to know before you get into this space. There's the more common things like knowing what a transaction is, what a transaction hash is, what a block, how to sign a transaction, how to broadcast it, how to read it, what a receipt is. But there's also more complex things like the Solidity code in itself. There's a lot of heavy configuration, as I've shown in this other slide. You have to run a lot of things before you can actually start developing your product itself, which also implies in the third point, which is a very long time to market. So one thing that we realized is that sometimes you're working for a company and that company wants to launch a Web3 product, but it takes such a long time for someone to first learn how to operate in this space, which is not intuitive at all, and then actually implement these things. It takes a long time. And of course, time is money. So that's always a bad thing when it takes too long to launch something. The fourth point is that it's not always future proof. Maybe you develop something that works just great today, and the merge happens and suddenly Rinkeby is no longer supported, so all your testing environment suddenly no longer works. And that's just the infrastructure, but this also happens on the developer side of things. From personal experience, I can say that, for example, I was developing something for Solana, and the auction program simply stopped working overnight, and we had to rebuild it everything from scratch. So that's something that happens, and it's a problem at the moment. The fifth is a lack of documentation. Since Web3 is so new and things change so fast, sometimes there's not enough time to even document what's going on, or what's already made. Another anecdote that I have from personal experience is I was trying to integrate a project to Uniswap, the decentralized exchange, the new version 3, and their own official documentation was kind of lackluster. It didn't have everything that you needed to know to work with their own product. So I actually had to dig in deep, see the code, how it works, the data structures and everything. It's not easy, And all of these topics just leads up to a bad developer experience overall. If you're working on Remix, etc., then you have two interfaces for development, and you have to keep them open at the same time. You compile your smart contract, and then you also need access to the ABI. So you got to go ahead and copy, just like Control C, the entire ABI and paste it somewhere in your code and keep it there. It's just, as I've said, not intuitive, and it comes as I've said over here, a pain point. And the purpose of Cryptum is to solve these things. So a Web3 development with Cryptum looks much smaller, much simpler, and much faster. You just create your account on our website, which you can access on cryptom.io or dashboard.cryptom.io. Then go ahead and create your Web2 application, your front end, your landing page, whatever, and just launch it, and that's it. And without further ado, we'd also like to announce a bounty of 2,000 Celo USD. The top project is going to receive $1,000, and the second to sixth each will receive $200. And I would like to point out that Cryptum in itself is just a tool. So you can use Cryptum and then also compete in the other themes projects, and then you'll be running for a bunch of bounties at the same time. So before we go any further, I would like to tell you a little bit more about Cryptom as a company. First, we came to be in around 2019 as a blockchain studio, just developing custom projects for enterprise companies. And we realized that every project that we did required the same things. We were always having to configure a node, setting up the provider, and then deploying smart contracts. And some of the times it was the same smart contract being deployed over and over again. So for example, if multiple companies wanted their own cryptocurrency, we were having to grab the Open Zeppelin template for an ERC20 token and then just deploying the same thing over and over again. So we decided to build an internal project for ourselves to speed up our own development. So at first it was just for internal usage so that we could deliver things faster for our clients. And then we realized, why don't we make a product out of this? Let's just open up the solution that we had internally for other people to use and help them speed up their development process as well. So the starting point of our journey is our dashboard. You can just check it out for yourself if you want on dashboard.cryptom.io. And then you're going to be able to grab your API key like this. You create a project, and then you're going to have access to our SDK, which I'm going to show a little bit later on this presentation. We also have a very extensive documentation on how to use everything code related or just plugins related, etc. Of course, I'm not going to say that a lack of documentation is a pain point and then not provide good documentation. So we do take pride in that. It's a very extensive documentation on how you can use Cryptum to do pretty much anything token related or reading information from blockchains, wallets, transactions, and so on and so forth. So without any further ado, as I've said, I am a developer and this is a developer 2 tool. So let's go ahead and code a little bit. What I'm going to do is, I'm pretty sure everyone has seen this page before. It's a very simple web game that that pops up whenever there's no internet connection. Or you can also access it on Chrome //dino. You're just a dinosaur running across the screen and have to jump over the cacti. And if you hit them, you lose. So what I did for this project, this presentation, is I replicated this game over here. It's the same idea. You're just this little Game Boy running across the screen, and if you hit the spike, you lose. So what we're going to do is we're going to add crypto-like functionalities to this. And I think you're going to be surprised to see how fast it is and how quick and easy it is. The idea is going to be at the end of each game, the player is going to receive as many tokens as he scored points. So in this example, I would get 39 Game Boy coins or something like that. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. Just gonna quickly go through the code for this game. It's very simple, JavaScript. It's just an update loop that keeps redrawing the player, the ground, and the spikes, and then checks for collision. If two of the elements are on the same place, that means you bumped into them, so you lose. And you're also going to keep getting more points as time goes on. Very simple. What we're going to do now is first create our own cryptocurrency. So for that, I created a very basic API using npx express generate, which gives us this file structure over here, which is a very basic API. If I run this, npm start, you can see that it's just a simple API. It returns hi mom on the root directory. So that's pretty much it. So now to create our currency, let's create a new JavaScript file, call it setup.js. And we're gonna first install Cryptom SDK, which is available on npm by typing in npm install Cryptom SDK. Now we have access to our development kit, and we'll be able to use it to do all these things that we want to do, like create our cryptocurrency and then give it to our players. First, let's require it over here. So that's going to be var Cryptom SDK is required to Cryptom SDK. I'm going to instantiate it over here. So this is the variable that's going to give us access to all the functions that are available in the code. I'm going to call it Cryptom SDK as well. And in here, we should pass the configuration. So that's the environment that we want to work with. That's either mainnet or testnet. Since this is just a presentation, so we're going to use testnet. And we also need to pass the API key. You can grab the API key, as I've mentioned, on our dashboard. This is it, an example of the dashboard. You log in, create your account. It's free. Then you create a project. There are different types of projects. You can have an NFT project like this, for example, where you can mint NFTs on our dashboard, including on Celo network. But for this project, we want a developer project. So it should look like this, with a bunch of graphs of the usage and everything. I'm just going to grab my API key over here and then paste it over here. There you go. Just for some clean code purposes, I'm also going to create a controller variable over here. That's going to be SDK ask SDK dot get wallet controller. Okay. I'm also going to create a sleep function, and we'll see why in a minute. It's going to return a new promise that resolves into a set timeout resolve in this many milliseconds. Cool. Now let's get to what we actually want to do, which is create our token. I'm going to create this function over here. No parameters are necessary. I'm instantly going to call it at the end of the file. So right now, the first thing that we need to do to gain access to all these functions and etc. is to create our wallet. You can do that by accessing the generate wallet function. So that's const wallet is equal to our SDK, wallet controller. I'm gonna wait for this. Generate wallet. Then you can pass what protocol you want this wallet to act on. In this case, it's Celo. And then the mnemonic to derive the wallet address from. If I don't pass a mnemonic and I just console log this, console log wallet, you'll see that I'll keep getting a bunch of random different wallets because it generates a new wallet every time if I don't pass a attribute like that. So let's see if this works. There you go. I have my new wallet over here, and if I keep running this, I'll keep getting different wallets. But I do not want different wallets. I want my wallet because I already have some funds over there to pay for the transactions. I have the mnemonic for my test wallet over here. No need to try and hack this. It's just a testing wallet. No funds are in it. And now if I run this, I should keep getting the same wallet over and over again, which is what's happening right now. So everything's working just fine. So there you go. Now I have access to a wallet inside my code, and I can do all sorts of things in it with it. So what we want to do is create a current token, right? So let's go ahead and do that. It's as simple as one function. I'm going to call this token transaction. I'm going to wait for sdk.token.create. And that's it. After this function goes through, we'll have our own cryptocurrency with what was essentially one line of code, 2 lines of code with the wallet. I'm going to pass which wallet is going to pay and sign this transaction. I'm also going to add the name of the coin. I'm just going to call it hackathon game coin. Also the symbol, which will be H for hackathon, then G for game, and C for coin. The amount of decimals I wanted to have, this is arbitrary. The default value is 18, but you can also change it over here if you want to. You can also pass an initial amount to be minted. I'm just going to put a random number over here. And then finally, what protocol do I want this to happen on? Of course, we're in a Celo hackathon. We want this to happen on the Celo blockchain. If I console log this, I should have my wallet ready to go. My token ready to go. So let's see what this gives us. And should take a couple of seconds to actually run the transaction. And there it is. I have the transaction hash for this transaction, which created our token. But we don't really have a lot of information on what we did, just a transaction hash that came to be. So what we need right now is the address of the token that we just created. And in order to get that, let me delete this. I'm going to use another function on our SDK called get transaction received by hash. Let me be received is equals to await sdk.transaction.get transaction received by hash. There we go. You can see over here, we need to pass the hash of the transaction that we want to inspect and what protocol it lies on. It's currently on Celo. The transaction hash is the thing that we just console logged above. So that's token transaction.hash. And there you go. But there's a catch, which is why we created this leak function. On line 16, we created the token, but it's not readily available on the blockchain just yet because it needs time to compute everything and for the network to settle on this transaction. So we're gonna have to wait for a couple of seconds. Of course, I was gonna say minutes because if you're on Ethereum, you wanna make sure to wait a long time, but on Celo, you don't have to worry about that. So I'm just gonna wait for, let's say 10 seconds, and that's probably more than I have to. I'm also going to log this receipt. And let's see if it works. So by now it should probably have created the token. It's awaiting a couple of seconds for the transaction to be settled and finalized. And then after line 24, we're going to try to read it. And there it is. It worked. This is the receipt of the transaction. It shows all the information that we need and some more. For example, the block number that this transaction was included in, the gas that we paid, the block hash, and all that stuff. What we want is this contract address. This is the contract that was created when we ran this transaction, because a coin, a token, is nothing else but a contract in it of itself. So I'm going to grab this, paste it over here, and there you go. We have our own currency right now. We can go ahead and check this on Celo scan and make sure that everything did happen. Yep, there you go. Hackathon game coin. It's up and running already on the testnet. Cool. So the next thing that we're going to do is actually mint tokens to our players. So the game that we have over there is going to make a request for this API to give tokens to that player. So I'm going to change this root to redeem, and I'm going to grab some lines of code over here where I import the SDK. I'm going to use the same wallet as well. So I'll grab this, and I'll also grab my wallet. And there you go. So now, just like we created a token with one line of code, that's sdk.token.create. Can you guess what this is going to be? Very simple. The redeem transaction. We're going to wait for sdk.token.mint. That's it. And now we have to pass the wallet that's going to pay for the transaction. That's our wallet. The token that should be minted, that's the token that I just pasted over here. That's the token that we created. Cool. And the destination, first let me grab these informations from the request query over here. So that's going to be cost, amount, and 2. Those are from the rack. Very awesome. The destination is this variable over there that we're going to grab from the game. The same goes for the amount. And lastly, we want to mention what protocol this is going to happen on. On Celo. We're not going to return hi mom anymore. Let's return the hash of this transaction so that we can show our users. Okay. This should be it. I'm also going to consolidate this just because why not? And it should now be working. So let's go back to our game over here. And I prepared a couple of elements, very simple ones, just an input for the user to type in his wallet. And also on the other file that I just showed you, there's a function that happens whenever the player loses. I'm checking if there's a wallet typed in, and if there is a wallet, I'm making an HTTP request for my API, passing the wallet and how many coins I scored. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Let's see if it works. Hopefully it does. So right now I'm going to grab a random wallet that I have over here. Okay, cool. I'm going to paste it over here and let's see if it works. I'm going to jump over. Okay, there you go. I lost. So I should have exactly 29 coins. Let's see if it works. Right now it's probably processing the transaction. And it should pop up anytime soon, hopefully. Or not, because I don't have the API running. Sorry about that. Now it should work. Let me grab the address once again. And then let's see if I get 37 Hackathon game coins. Yep, there you go. You earn 37 new coins. This is my transaction hash. If I grab this and inspect it over here on Celo scan, you'll be able to see that there you go. I just got 37 hackathon game coins for my address, which is exactly what we wanted. So yeah, this is the total amount that was first minted on upon creation, and this is the 37 coins that I just got. And that's pretty much it. You could see how, I don't know how long this took, maybe like 10 minutes, 15 minutes. You just created a currency and then migrated a game, a Web2 game, to something more like Web3, maybe like 2.5, which in my opinion is kind of impressive. And it's super easy. All that you have to do was basically a couple of functions over here, like SDK token create, or and then SDK transaction get receipt, get put that information over here, and then SDK token mint. It's as simple as that. And there are a bunch of functions just as easy to implement that you can use in your project. Uh, and then honestly, from this, it's up to you how you want to use this. You can read all about it on our documentations to see what's available right now. We're already adding more and more features as we go on. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's what I had to show you today. I hope that you enjoy using Cryptum and that it helps your journey on Web3 development and that it makes everything. We just want to make your life easier, and I hope that you enjoyed this project as well as much as I did. Uh, so yeah, that's what I had to show you today.
Awesome. Yeah, that was pretty good. Like it felt like a project was being built right during the live stream. So awesome. It's definitely like MVP of a project built right in front of you guys. So Cryptum is like super fast development. So yeah,
Exactly.
uh, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them now. It would be the right time to ask. We are ready to take your questions. I'm just curious. What about the smart contracts that are being deployed? Can we see the code of the smart contracts? How do they look? Um, since I observed that they were not verified, so I'm just assuming where can I find the code to the smart contracts that are being deployed when I make the calls?
Great question. The contracts that we use are just the standard token contracts, but they're also available on our SDK, which is open source, the same one that you install through npm. If you just go on GitHub and search cryptum.sdk dash SDK, you're gonna be able to find all the contracts over there. And also, just a quick sneak peek: the latest addition that we're having is, besides the regular token contracts, we're also going to add loot box functionalities and pack functionalities, which is quite awesome and opens up a lot of possibilities and opportunities. So make sure to be tuned in, and we're gonna keep adding new features to the product.
Awesome. We have one question. It
Mhm.
says, can we use wallets instead of mnemonics? So can you then like I'm assuming it's like a front end interface where you connect a wallet and then do everything with Cryptum.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just use a mnemonic because that was what I found to be the easiest way to bring the wallet that I created somewhere else into the code. You can also import wallets through their private key. So let's say you created something on MetaMask, and then you can just export it, Control C, private key, Control V on your code, and that's it. It works.
Awesome. Awesome. Great. Um, when you're coding, I observed that we had to mention protocol every time we made a call. So why was such a decision made? Why couldn't we just like mention the protocol in the Cryptum SDK instantiation, right? Are there any plans for doing, uh, like, should we be able to do multiple chain stuff in the single code base? Is that the
Yeah,
goal?
exactly. So
Okay,
that's the idea behind it, is that if I go back to the code and just change the protocol from Celo to Avalanche, it works. Now you're deploying the
right.
same things on Avalanche. So some of our clients wanted to have their tokens on multiple chains. So that was a very simple way that we implemented it. But we have received this feedback before. So like maybe some people are focused on one protocol. They just want to use the same protocol every time. So we're gonna add that to make it even simpler.
Awesome. Are there any ways of using custom RPC, or do we have to depend on what Cryptum uses in the backend?
There's not an option right now to use your own RPC. That's part of the infrastructure that we have. We run our own nodes, and we have backup nodes as well. And yeah, those are the default options that we do use.
Awesome. There's one question. I think the person has joined a bit late, but the question is, uh, what's Cryptum about? Why should I use it? Can you mention it in brief to this
Oh
person?
yeah, absolutely. So Cryptum is a tool, a dev tool to make your Web3 developer life easier. So the mission that we have is to make Web3 development faster. So we provide certain functions and functionalities that are common use throughout many projects and our own experiences. And we have that readily available on like a single line of code. So as you can see in the video, if you check it, if you rewind a little bit, you can create currencies with one line of code. You can create transactions with one line of code and things like that.
Awesome. We have one more question. What
Mhm.
are the supported contracts other than ERC20?
We have ERC20, 721 for single issue NFTs, and also 1155 for multiple editions NFTs. And as I've said, we also have staking for Celo, and also we are currently working like right now on the loot box functionality. So those are the main contracts that we have at the moment.
Awesome. Great. Mm, Let's wait for a few seconds if there
Mhm.
are any more questions.
Yeah, and meanwhile, I didn't show it on this video, but the NFT functionalities are just as easy as the token one. So instead of going sdk.token.create, you would go sdk.nft.create. And there you go. You have an NFT and you can do whatever you have.
Awesome. There's one more question.
Mhm.
Does it implement Web3.js or Ethers.js? I'm not
That's a
sure.
good
What is-
question, but it doesn't really apply because we come in as sort of a replacement for these libraries. So instead of building the transactions manually on Ethers.js or something like that, you just leave it up for our SDK to do everything for us, for you.
Makes sense.
I think we just got a new question. It is currently back end. This project is available for JavaScript language, but you can also use it on any language that you want because we have a connector. So you can read more about it on our documentation. But we are also currently working on our front end SDK so that you can do these things on your website if you needed to. So yeah, at the moment, just backend, and then soon we're gonna have two separate projects, one for backend and another one for front end applications. And I guess this is it. My host just left. So I think that's all I had to present today. I would like to thank everybody watching and Harpal Dash himself, Celo Foundation, and on behalf of Cryptum, thank you, everybody.